Hey guys! In today's video, we are taking a more in-depth look at the new DCS Supercarrier deck crew and their issues and bugs. But even more importantly, how to fix and work around these issues to make your next flight off the Supercarrier as fun and stress-free as possible, whether you're a single player or multiplayer guy. But I think it's also extremely important here to take a step back and acknowledge and give a huge thank you to all the guys and gals at Eagle Dynamics for the obviously immense amount of work it took to make the deck crew work at all. And I am absolutely floored by how well they do work here on initial release. And it makes complete sense why it took so long for this addition to the Supercarrier to come to fruition. I think it's really needed to give a huge shout out to the devs, especially with all the negativity and vitriol in the DCS community, cause I know that they probably feel it more than anyone. So, as you guys know, I'm Spud, as always, and let's jump in and get started here with 3 tips to make your Supercarrier experience as fun as possible. Okay guys, the footage you're seeing here is all footage from various tests, both in single player and multiplayer. The goal, of course, was testing, so apologies for the rather horrible flying, landings, and case 1s, 2s, and 3s here. So, right off the bat here, guys, one huge thing that will alleviate a lot of heartache for you guys in both single player and multiplayer when it comes to the Supercarrier's deck crew is understanding that they were really coded with Cyclic Ops in mind, for both realism and of course for making this project anywhere near feasible to tackle from a development perspective. So what really is Cyclic Ops? In layman's terms, Cyclic Ops refers to the launch and recovery cycle used in modern US Navy and French Navy aircraft carrier operations. That means that aircraft being sent on missions are all launched off of the carrier as a group and recovered back onto the ship as a group. For example, Mission A's aircraft are launched, which usually comprises of the more long endurance aircraft like Hawkeyes, CODs, things of that nature. Then Mission B's aircraft are launched. Then Mission A's aircraft are recovered. Mission C's aircraft are launched. Mission B's aircraft are recovered. Mission D's aircraft are launched. Mission C's aircraft are recovered, and so on and so forth until the end of flight ops for that day or night. In other words, aircraft are always either launching or recovering, and not both. However, if shit does hit the fan, and you've got bears, badgers, and backfires bearing down on the battle group, large US Navy supercarriers are able to concurrently launch and recover aircraft, but this is certainly not the norm. So when it comes to DCS missions, try to stick to Cyclic Ops to keep from running into issues with the Supercarrier's deck crew being in the wrong positions and inducing further issues. So with the big picture out of the way, let's drill down into some bugs and issues that you may encounter in your gameplay and the fixes and/or workarounds you can use to get around them. The biggest issue I have seen in my multiplayer testing centers around the parking area called the 6-pack, which is the inboard parking area just forward of the island. And while my own sample size is admittedly rather small, my group's findings did match up with the findings of many others out there. When you spawn in your group of 8 to 16 Hornets and/or Tomcats, invariably everything will go just fine to start off with. Players will be directed to taxi to various catapults from spots 1, 2, 11, 12, and 13 just fine, regardless of whether they're in a Hornet or a Tomcat. But when it comes to spots 3 and 4, the aftmost spots in the 6-pack, that seems to be where things come to a grinding halt. And the plane director AI just can't seem to get those jets to start taxiing. And none of the other aircraft parked on the deck will be able to taxi either, so this is a pretty large blocking bug. The fix for this though is to simply have any players in spots 3 or 4 reslot and hopefully get placed in any other parking spot on the carrier deck, which will allow the plane director AI to resume taxiing jets to catapults no problem. The next issue to talk about here is one that will probably never be fully resolved, and is one that I'm sure the ED devs are working on and will be chasing from now until the end of DCS World as a product. And that is the accuracy, timeliness, and sometimes bugginess of the commands given by the plane directors themselves. In my estimate, they are right about 90 to 95% of the time, but the remaining 5 to 10%, they can be a little bit wonky. So what this means for you as the player in the cockpit of your Hornet or your Tomcat, and in the future hopefully your Corsair 2 and other jets like the Crusader, is of course to be a good airman, and be aware of your surroundings on the carrier deck, and ensure you use some common sense. Such as if a plane director is asking you to break the foul line with your wingman on short final just about to get to the wires, you should maybe hit the brakes and stop until your friend has trapped, bolted, or been waved off. Similarly, sometimes the directors shift between directing you to turn left or right very quickly. Just take a look around and make sure that following their instructions of a quick left followed by a quick right aren't going to taxi you into an aircraft or a raised JBD or other obstacle, and go with the side that isn't going to run you into that obstacle. And other times, you may need to brute force the plane director AI a little when they're giving you seemingly nonsensical commands. One thing you can do is if you just taxi forward a few feet further, something will be triggered in their logic and their commands will start to conform to reality again. My third tip here is related to the two previous ones, but unfortunately at this point only applies to our F-14 Tomcat pilots, but is something I hope can be added back to the FA-18C on the Supercarrier to allow us to apply this fix with the Hornet in the future. If you've been trying out the new Supercarrier deck crew, I'm sure you've run into a moment or two where it seems like the AI gets a little confused and doesn't know which aircraft it should continue taxiing to the catapults. And everything then comes to a screeching halt on the carrier deck. Well, if you're in your parking spot in the F-14 Tomcat, you can manually take your wheel chocks off, salute your plane captain, and then taxi forward a couple of feet. Even if you're directed to stop immediately, this will usually be enough to kind of kickstart the AI into continuing the taxi cycle for the aircraft around you, or they will just start to direct you to a catapult as normal. Unfortunately, if you're in the FA-18C Hornet, you're not able to manually remove your wheel chocks, so you can't apply this fix from your parking spot. But if you're already on the move and everything stops, just taxi forward a little bit to jumpstart the plane director AI. And it should work even if they tell you to stop immediately. So alright guys, I hope that these 3 little tips help you guys out when it comes to having as much fun as possible with the new DCS Supercarrier deck crew. And to end on a really positive note here, I just wanted to say that I had 0 problems with the plane directors or any blocking bugs during the recovery cycle. And every time I have landed on the carrier, the AI has done a fantastic job from a bug-inducing standpoint. I know that Eagle Dynamics in the past has resisted the idea of allowing us to place aircraft into individual spawn points on the carrier deck, but it's still in my opinion that this would be a fantastic option, along with allowing us to script which catapult each aircraft would be directed to, but that's just my own personal wish list. And again, I just wanted to end here with another huge shout out to the Eagle Dynamics devs on this obviously monumental piece of work, and I can definitely see the vision and where they're going with all of this. And I hope by tackling the more difficult carrier environment first, we will eventually see interactive ground crew on airfields ashore as well. Can you imagine taxiing up to the EOR and having orties run out to your jet to pull safety pins out of your weapons and perform last-minute checks? How cool would that be? So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this video helps make your DCS Supercarrier experience more fun and stress-free. So please leave a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Fly safe out there and enjoy this beautiful game.